What if the world you know collapses in an instant, and the answers to your most important questions turn out to be nothing like you imagined? Don't rush to conclusions. This story will surprise you more than once. Marrying an older man. I always felt like my life was following some invisible script, one I hadn't written myself. By the time I was 28, I had never been married, even though all my friends already had families, children, and some had even divorced and remarried. I remained on the sidelines like a spectator at someone else's celebration. Sometimes I thought I simply didn't know how to be happy, as if happiness was a special skill I hadn't inherited. As a child, I often envied girls who had fathers. They would talk about how their dads taught them to ride a bike, how they built birdhouses together or went fishing. I never had that. My mom always said that men were just passing guests in a woman's life, and that the most important thing was to be independent. Still, I dreamed of having a strong shoulder to lean on, someone who would care for me the way a father cares for his daughter. My relationships with men were brief and left no trace. I dated guys, but the excitement faded quickly, and I was alone again. Sometimes I thought I didn't know how to love, and sometimes I thought I didn't know how to be loved. Secretly, I dreamed of meeting an older man. Someone mature, confident, who could be not just a husband, but a mentor, a protector, a support. My mom had always told me that getting married was a great fortune and happiness. Maybe because she herself had never been married. She often repeated, "Anna, the most important thing is to find a good husband. Everything else will follow." I listened, but deep down I doubted. What if it doesn't? What if happiness isn't just a stamp in your passport? In the evenings, I would sit by the window, looking at the city lights, imagining my future life. Sometimes I felt like I was already too late, that my train had left, and all I could do was watch other people's happiness. But sometimes I believed that everything was still ahead. One winter evening, when Brooklyn was wrapped in snow and the air was sharp with frost, I was walking home from work. It was already dark, the streetlights casting long shadows on the sidewalk. Lost in thought, I suddenly slipped. It happened in an instant. My feet went out from under me, but luckily, I landed softly on the packed snow. "Careful!" I heard a man's voice. A man rushed over, offered his hand, and helped me up. "Are you okay? How's your leg?" he asked with concern. I shifted my weight, felt no pain, and smiled with relief. "Thank you, I'm fine. Landed pretty well." I looked up and saw a man in his 40s, handsome, stylishly dressed. His gaze was attentive, but there was a hint of a smile, as if he knew something important about me. "Let me give you a ride," he offered, pointing to a car parked by the corner store. "I was just coming out and saw you fall." I hesitated, but something in his voice and manner made me trust him. "Thank you, that would be great," I agreed. In the car, he introduced himself. "My name's Nathan." I told him my name and we drove off. The car smelled of expensive cologne and fresh air. Nathan turned out to be an interesting conversationalist. He talked about the city, his work, life in general without prying. I felt at ease, as if we'd known each other for a long time. When he dropped me off at my building, I realized I didn't want to say goodbye. "Maybe we'll see each other again?" Nathan asked, and I nodded without hesitation. I went upstairs, my mind replaying the meeting with Nathan over and over. In the days that followed, I felt out of sorts. I kept recalling the little details. How Nathan gently steadied me by the elbow, how calm and confident his voice sounded, how he looked at me as if trying to see past my usual polite mask. I caught myself waiting for his call, even though I usually didn't allow myself such weaknesses. He called 2 days later. Anna, good evening. I hope you didn't get any bruises after your fall. I'm fine, I smiled, though he couldn't see it. Thank you for helping me that day. I was wondering if you'd like to have coffee with me? There's a cozy place that serves the best cappuccino in Brooklyn. I agreed, and we met at a small cafe on the corner of an old street. Nathan wore the same elegant coat as that evening, and again I noticed the subtle scent of his cologne. He ordered coffee and pastries, and I, a little shy, watched him. There was something old-fashioned in his manners, but instead of being off-putting, it drew me in. Do you come here often? I asked, trying to break the silence. Sometimes, he replied. It's a good place to think, to be alone. Do you like solitude? I thought for a moment. Sometimes. But more often, I'm afraid of it. Solitude isn't always the enemy, Nathan said. Sometimes it helps you understand yourself. We talked for a long time, and I realized how easy it was to be with him. He didn't ask about my past, didn't pressure me, didn't try to seem better than he was. He was just there, listening, sometimes joking, sometimes serious. Our meetings became regular. Nathan was always punctual, always attentive. Sometimes he brought flowers, not the usual roses, but modest bouquets of wildflowers or lilacs. We walked in parks, visited museums, discussed books and movies. Gradually, I opened up to him, telling him about my childhood, my mother, my fears and dreams. One day, as we sat on a bench in Prospect Park, Nathan suddenly asked, Anna, have you ever truly been happy? I thought for a moment. Probably not. I was always waiting for something good to happen, thinking that then I'd be happy. But that something never came. Nathan smiled. Maybe happiness isn't an event, but a state of mind? Maybe, I agreed. But I haven't managed to catch it yet. He took my hand, and I felt something stir inside me. I wanted to believe that with him, things could be different. A month after meeting Nathan, I decided to tell my mom about him. We were sitting in her small Brooklyn kitchen, drinking tea, and I finally gathered the courage to say, Mom, I'm seeing someone. He's 40, works in city administration, divorced, with 2 kids. My mom looked at me carefully, setting her cup aside. Are you sure he's right for you? I don't know. But I feel good with him. The most important thing is that he's reliable, she said. An older husband is a good thing. He'll teach you about life. And make sure you insist on a marriage certificate. I nodded, though I wasn't sure the certificate was what mattered most. But I didn't argue. Things with Nathan moved quickly. 3 months later, he proposed. It wasn't romantic, no rings or flowers, just a simple dinner where he said, Anna, let's get married. I want you by my side. I didn't hesitate. I agreed right away, as if I'd been waiting for this moment my whole life. Moving in with Nathan felt like the start of a new life. His house outside the city was spacious and bright, with a big garden and a cozy terrace. I felt like a guest at first, but I tried to settle in, to become part of this world. The first months were like a fairy tale. Nathan was attentive, caring, sometimes even too much so. He loved order, couldn't stand chaos, valued silence. I tried to match his expectations, learned to cook his favorite dishes, memorize the little things. How he liked his coffee, which tea he preferred, what books he read before bed. But gradually, I began to notice an invisible wall growing between us. Nathan stayed late at work more often, spoke less about his feelings. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself it was normal, that every couple goes through this. One evening, as I was making dinner, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find a woman in her 50s, with a tired face and a stern look. Good evening. Are you Anna? Yes, and you are? My name is Irene. I'm Nathan's ex-wife. I was taken aback, not knowing what to say. May I come in? She asked. Of course. We went to the kitchen and I poured her some tea. Irene was silent for a long time, then finally said, I didn't come to fight. I just want you to know. Nathan is a complicated man. He doesn't like being contradicted. And he doesn't forgive mistakes. I listened without interrupting. I don't want to interfere in your life, Irene continued. Just be careful. Don't lose yourself. She left as suddenly as she had arrived. I sat in the kitchen for a long time, thinking about her words. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly uneasy. After Irene's visit, I couldn't find peace. Her words echoed in my mind like a warning, and I found myself growing more anxious. Nathan didn't know about her visit, and I decided not to tell him. I didn't want to provoke a fight or create distrust. But from that day on, I started watching him more closely, noticing his habits and moods. The phone rang often in the house. Sometimes Nathan answered briefly. Sometimes he stepped out into the garden to talk in private. I didn't eavesdrop, but I sensed that something was happening behind my back. One day, when he went into his study, I overheard his voice, quiet, tense. No, I can't right now. Later. I said later. Don't call here again. When he returned, I asked, Is everything okay? He looked at me intently, a little longer than usual, then nodded. Everything's fine. Just work stuff. I didn't press, but the anxiety didn't leave me. Soon I met his children, his son Alex and his daughter Lisa. They came for the weekend, and Nathan was clearly nervous. Alex was withdrawn, barely spoke to me, while Lisa, on the contrary, asked a lot of questions, studying me as if trying to figure out who I was. Do you love my dad? She asked at dinner. I blushed but answered honestly, Yes, I do. Lisa nodded, but I saw a shadow of doubt in her eyes. After dinner, Alex approached me while Nathan was out on the terrace. Don't be upset with Lisa, he said. She's having a hard time with the divorce. I understand, I replied. It's always tough. He nodded and left, and I felt like a stranger in this house. One evening, when Nathan was late at work, I decided to tidy up his study. Sorting through papers, I accidentally found an envelope with photographs. The pictures showed a young, beautiful woman with long dark hair. On the back of one photo was written, For you, Nathan. Always yours, eh? I felt a tightness in my chest. Who was this woman? Why were her photos kept among his important documents? I put the envelope back, but the questions wouldn't leave me. When Nathan returned, I tried to keep my voice calm. Nathan, can I ask you something? Of course. Who is A? I pointed to the envelope on the desk. He looked at me in surprise, then sighed. That's an old story. Best not to dig up the past. I wanted to argue, but he had already turned away, making it clear the conversation was over. That night I couldn't sleep. Thoughts spun in my head. What if Nathan had someone else? What if I was just a temporary replacement? I remembered Irene's words. He doesn't forgive mistakes. What if the mistake was me? The next day, I decided to meet with Irene. I called her and she agreed to talk. We met at a cafe. Irene was calm, but her eyes showed fatigue. Why did you come to me that day? I asked. I wanted to warn you, she replied. Nathan can be charming, but he doesn't tolerate weakness. If you don't live up to his expectations, he'll leave. That's what happened with me and with others. Others? Yes, Irene nodded. He's had other women. He's always searching for the ideal, but no one could ever be that. I thought for a moment. And who is A? Irene looked surprised. Alina? She was his first love. They broke up years ago, but I think he's never let her go. I thanked Irene and left, feeling there was something in this story I still didn't understand. That evening, I decided to talk to Nathan openly. Nathan, I want to know the truth. Who is Alina to you? He was silent for a long time, then said, It was a long time ago. We were young in love. But she left me for someone else. I thought I'd forgotten her, but maybe I was wrong. And me? Who am I to you? He looked at me tired. You're my wife. But sometimes I feel like I'm still living in the past. I didn't know what to say. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly alone. After my honest conversation with Nathan, I felt a crack appear between us. It was almost invisible at first, but with each passing day it grew wider. I tried not to show my worries, but inside I felt more and more like a guest in my own home. My mom called more and more often, asking how I was, reminding me that it was time to think about children. I answered vaguely, not wanting to share my doubts. Sweetheart, don't wait too long, she would say. Men aren't forever and the years go by. Mom, it's not that simple, I replied, tired. One evening when Nathan was late at work again, I decided to take a walk in the garden. It was quiet, only a distant dog barking somewhere. I walked along the path, breathing in the smell of damp earth and fading leaves, when I suddenly heard voices behind the fence. Are you sure she doesn't know anything? A woman's voice asked, anxious. Don't worry, Nathan replied, and I recognized his voice. Everything's under control. I froze, not daring to get closer. My heart pounded. What were they talking about? Who was this woman? I didn't listen further, quickly returned to the house, and locked myself in the bedroom. The next day, Nathan acted as if nothing had happened. He was attentive, even overly affectionate, which only made me more anxious. I decided not to ask questions, but inside I was boiling. That evening, I met my friend Olivia at a cafe. I couldn't hold it in and told her about my suspicions. Anna, you're overthinking, Olivia said. Maybe he just has work problems? I don't know, I sighed. But I feel like he's hiding something. Olivia thought for a moment. If you want, I can ask around. Nathan's a well-known guy, you never know. I nodded, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know the truth. A few days later, Olivia called me. Anna, I didn't find anything bad, she said. But people say Nathan's going through a tough time at work. Some kind of investigation, office politics, enemies. Maybe he just doesn't want to drag you into it. I felt relieved, but the anxiety didn't go away completely. I started following the news more closely, reading local forums. Soon I noticed Nathan's name coming up more and more. Some accused him of corruption, others defended him, some just gossiped. One evening, Nathan came home looking more gloomy than usual. He ate dinner in silence, then sat in the living room with his laptop. I sat down next to him. Nathan, what's going on? He looked at me, tired. Problems at work. I don't want to burden you. I'm your wife, I said quietly. I want to know. He sighed. There's an investigation at the office. Someone's trying to set me up. I don't know who, but I feel the circle closing in. I took his hand. I'm with you, I said. No matter what happens. For the first time in a long while, he smiled. Thank you, Anna. That means a lot. That night I couldn't sleep. I realized our life was changing, and the future was uncertain. But for the first time in a long time, I felt that Nathan needed me not just as a wife, but as someone he could trust. Time passed and I settled more and more into the role of a wife. I tried to be the perfect hostess, making breakfast, keeping the house in order, greeting Nathan when he came home from work, just as my mother had taught me. Sometimes it felt like I was living someone else's life, playing a part in a play whose script had been written long before I arrived. Every morning was the same. I got up before Nathan to make his favorite omelet. He liked everything to be on schedule. Breakfast at 7, coffee only after eating, the newspaper always on the table. I memorized all his habits, trying not to make mistakes so as not to irritate him. "Anna, the omelet is a bit too salty today," he would say sometimes, not looking at me. "Sorry, I'll be more careful next time," I replied, forcing a smile. After breakfast, Nathan left for work, and I was alone in the big house. I tried to keep busy reading, sewing, sometimes meeting my mom or friends, but most often I just wandered from room to room listening to the silence. My mom called almost every day. "So, how are things? Is Nathan happy?" "Everything's fine, Mom," I answered, though I knew deep down that wasn't quite true. "Don't forget, the most important thing is to hold on to your husband. Good men are hard to find these days. And don't wait too long to have kids," she reminded me. I sighed. The topic of children was becoming more and more painful. Nathan didn't want any more kids, and he said so directly. "I already have 2, he said. "I've done my duty as a father." "But Mom dreams of grandchildren," I protested quietly. "She can keep dreaming," Nathan replied curtly. I tried not to think about it, but with each day I felt more and more alone. Sometimes I felt like just another object in his house, part of the furniture that you quickly get used to and stop noticing. Time went on. A year passed, then another. I kept convincing myself that marriage was a blessing, just as my mother had said. I tried not to notice that Nathan was growing colder, that awkward silences were becoming more frequent, that he looked me in the eyes less and less. One morning at breakfast he said, "Anna, the omelet isn't salty enough today. Pass me the salt, please." I handed him the salt shaker automatically, and after drinking his coffee, he suddenly looked at me and said in a matter-of-fact voice, "You know, I've fallen in love with someone else, so we're getting a divorce. I'll file the papers myself." At first, I didn't understand what he meant. It was all so simple, so casual, as if he were telling me about the weather or that we'd run out of bread. Was I a bad wife? I asked, barely holding back tears. "You were a good wife," Nathan replied calmly. "But the key word is were. You can't command the heart." I realized there was no point arguing. Nathan had already made up his mind. I looked at him, his determined jaw, the gray at his temples, the thin-rimmed glasses, and suddenly felt like a stranger in this house. "Why should I give you up to another woman?" I asked. "She doesn't know how you like your oatmeal, that you hate fried onions, or how to take care of your back when it hurts." "She'll learn," Nathan said calmly. "How long have you been seeing her? What does it matter? The important thing is I love her." "So it's decided," I whispered. "This is my house," Nathan reminded me. "You'll have to leave. I'm staying here and bringing her in." I had forgotten that I lived in his house. He brought me back to reality quickly. I would go back to my mother's, back to where I came from. When I told my mom about the divorce, she lamented for a long time, blaming me more than Nathan. "You couldn't keep your husband. Now who will want you? You're almost 40. You should have had a child long ago. Mom, don't start. A child wouldn't have stopped him. He loves someone else. My mom pursed her lips and quietly cursed Nathan, but I knew she was most afraid for my future. Nathan helped move my things to my mom's place, said a polite goodbye, and left. I was alone, feeling betrayed and discarded like something useless. My mom kept fueling my pain, repeating that it would be hard for me to find happiness now. The first weeks after the divorce felt like living in a fog. I saw myself as miserable, unwanted. My mother's apartment seemed cramped and foreign, even though I'd spent my whole childhood there. I was back in my old room, surrounded by stuffed animals and yellowed photographs on the walls. My mom walked around the house with heavy sighs, casting reproachful glances my way. "So what now?" she would ask, as if I could answer that question. "You should have held on to your husband. Now what? Alone, no children, no future." I didn't argue. I had no strength left. Not for explanations, not for tears. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how quickly things that seemed eternal could fall apart. Time passed. I tried to return to work, but everything was difficult. My colleagues looked at me with sympathy. Some whispered behind my back, some offered to meet up and talk, but I refused. I felt transparent, invisible, as if I no longer existed. One evening, my mom came into my room and sat on the edge of the bed. "Anna, you can't go on like this," she said gently. "You have to move forward." "To where?" I asked. "I have nothing left." "You have everything ahead of you," my mom insisted. "You're young, beautiful, smart. It's just hard right now, but it will pass." For the first time in a long while, I felt grateful to my mom. Despite her reproaches, she was still there for me. Gradually, I started coming back to life. I went for walks, met up with Olivia, sometimes went to the movies or just wandered around the city. I was learning to be alone, not to fear the silence, not to wait for a call or a message. One day, as I was leaving the courthouse after finalizing the divorce, I bumped into a stranger. I was walking with my head down and suddenly collided with someone. "Oh, I'm sorry," I said, looking up. Standing in front of me was a man with warm brown eyes and wavy black hair. He smiled. "It's okay, it happens. You look deep in thought. I forgive you." I was about to walk away, but he gently touched my elbow. "Please don't take this the wrong way," he said. "But may I invite you for a cup of coffee? You look so sad. By the way, my name is Matthew." "And you are?" "Anna," I replied, surprised at my own openness. "Yes, I guess I could use a little distraction." We went to a nearby cafe. I ordered ice cream, Matthew had coffee. We talked about trivial things, but suddenly I wanted to tell him everything. About the divorce, my fears, how hard it was to start over. "Sorry," I caught myself. "I must be talking too much." "How can you say that to a stranger?" Matthew smiled. "We've known each other for an hour now. Besides, I can tell you about myself too if you're interested." I listened to him, and suddenly realized how easy and peaceful I felt next to this man. His voice was warm, his gaze attentive, and there wasn't a trace of pity in his words. That evening, I came home with a light heart. My mom was surprised to see me smiling. "What happened?" she asked. "Nothing, Mom. Just a good day," I replied. After that chance meeting with Matthew, I couldn't get him out of my head. His calm voice, gentle smile, and ability to listen were so different from what I'd grown used to during my years with Nathan. I caught myself waiting for his call, though I didn't dare reach out first. A couple of days later, Matthew called. "Hi, Anna. I was wondering, Would you like to take a walk in the park? The weather's great, and I feel like we have a lot to talk about. I agreed, and we met at the entrance to Prospect Park. It was cool but sunny. We strolled along the paths talking about books, childhood, favorite movies. Matthew turned out to be a wonderfully easy companion. He didn't ask unnecessary questions, didn't try to seem better than he was, and didn't overwhelm me with attention. "Anna," he said suddenly, "you're very strong. Not everyone could hold themselves together after everything you've been through." I smiled, though I felt a pang inside. "Sometimes I think I've just learned to hide my pain," I admitted. "But thank you for saying that." We stopped by the pond watching the ducks, and I realized that with this man I felt at peace. I didn't have to pretend, didn't have to be perfect. That evening I told my mom about the meeting. "Mom, I met a good man. His name is Matthew." My mom was cautious. "Just don't rush," she said. "Get to know him first. After what happened with Nathan, you need to be careful." "I know, Mom," I replied, "but I just feel good with him. I'm not expecting anything special. I just want to live my life." My mom nodded, but I could see she was worried in her own way. Matthew and I started seeing each other more often. He invited me to the theater, to museums. Sometimes we just walked around the city or stopped by little coffee shops. Gradually, I opened up to him, telling him about my fears, how hard the divorce had been, how difficult it was to believe in myself again. "You know," Matthew said one day, "I don't think we met by accident. Sometimes fate brings people together at the most unexpected moment." I smiled for the first time in a long while, feeling like I could truly be myself. Several months passed. I began to enjoy life again, to make plans, to dream. My mother gradually accepted that Nathan was in the past, and that Matthew might be my future. "The most important thing is that you're happy," she said one day. "I can see you've changed. You're stronger, more confident." I hugged my mom, realizing how much her support meant to me. Soon, I found out I was expecting a baby. It was unexpected, but I wasn't afraid. On the contrary, I felt that now I had a purpose, something to live for. Matthew was overjoyed. He cared for me, supported me, surrounded me with love and attention. "We'll manage," he said. "Now we're a family." I believed him. I believed in myself. I believed that the best was yet to come. Pregnancy changed me. I became more attentive to myself, my feelings, and everything happening around me. Matthew was always there, supporting me in everything, and for the first time in many years, I felt truly protected. We picked out baby things together, read parenting books, discussed names for our future child. Matthew often joked, "The main thing is that the baby gets your eyes and my personality. And if it's the other way around?" I laughed. "Then we'll just have to be especially patient parents." At first, my mom was cautious about all the changes. She called often, asking how I was feeling, if I was too tired, if Matthew was treating me well. "Mom, everything's fine," I reassured her. "Matthew takes care of me like no one else ever has." "I'm glad, honey," she sighed. "The most important thing is that you're happy. And I'm already looking forward to my grandchild." Olivia, my friend, was happy for me too. We often met at cafes, discussed news, shared our plans. "You're a completely different person now," she noticed one day. "You're glowing from the inside." "Maybe because I'm finally happy," I replied. "With Matthew, everything is different. There's no fear, no anxiety. I just live and enjoy every day." Olivia smiled. "You deserve this happiness. After everything you've been through, You have every right to a new life." Time flew by. I was getting ready for the baby's arrival, and Matthew helped with everything. We decorated the nursery together, picked out wallpaper, bought a crib and toys. In the evenings he read to me, and I listened with my eyes closed, thinking that I had never felt so calm. Sometimes I remembered the past, Nathan's house, his cold looks, my mother's reproaches, my own uncertainty. But now it all seemed distant, as if it had happened to someone else. One day, as Matthew and I were coming back from the supermarket, I saw Nathan. He was with his young wife, who was also visibly pregnant. Nathan stopped, looking surprised to see me, then glanced at Matthew and at my rounded belly. "Anna, is that you?" he asked. "Yes, Nathan, it's me," I replied calmly. "And is this your third wife? You're getting younger every year. Just don't overdo it." His wife looked at us in confusion, but quickly realized who we were. "I want to thank you, Nathan," I continued. "If you hadn't left, I would never have known what real love and happiness are. You didn't abandon me. You set me free." Nathan was silent, and I, taking Matthew's hand, said, "Let's go, darling. We have a lot to do." We left the store, and I felt the past finally let me go. Soon Matthew and I welcomed our son, a dark-haired boy with brown eyes, just like his father. My mom was overjoyed. Olivia was the first to come congratulate us, and as I looked at my baby, I thought, everything that happened was not in vain. It all led me to this moment, to this new life, where there is love, support, and faith in myself. Now we walk through life together. Matthew, our little son, and I, hand in hand, unafraid of the future. The story of Anna is not just about love, disappointment, and new happiness. It's a story of growing up, accepting yourself, and learning to let go of the past. So often we cling to what's familiar, even if it hurts, because we're afraid of change and loneliness. But it's through trials, losses, and disappointments that we learn to value the present and see those who truly matter. A woman's happiness isn't in a marriage certificate, in someone else's expectations, or in perfect movie scenes. It's in the ability to be yourself, the courage to build your life anew, and the trust in yourself and those around you. Sometimes fate takes away what seemed unshakable, only to give us something greater: freedom, love, a real family. If you're going through a hard time right now, remember, everything passes and there is always light ahead. Don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid to be happy. Trust yourself and open your heart to a new life. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a comment, or share your own experiences. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new stories and discussions. Your feedback means a lot to me. Together, we create a warm and supportive space.